The sand in the Judgment Arena stretched for miles in every direction. 200 different species filled the viewing platforms that rose like mountains around the circular space. Some had wings, some had scales, some were made of crystal that caught the light and threw rainbows across the crowd. They had all come to watch death happen. Ambassador Talia Okonkwo held her daughter's hand as they walked to their assigned seats in the diplomatic section. Lily was 7 years old and had begged to come. Talia had said no 17 times before finally giving up. The child had a way of asking questions that made saying no feel wrong somehow. "Mama, why is everyone so quiet?" Lily whispered as they sat down. Talia looked around. The child was right. Thousands of beings packed the arena, but nobody spoke above a whisper. The air felt heavy, like before a storm. "They're afraid," Talia said simply. She had learned that lying to Lily never worked. The girl could smell dishonesty like others smelled smoke. Of what? Before Talia could answer, a sound rolled across the arena. It was deep enough to make the floor vibrate. Every being in the crowd went completely still. Even the ones who didn't have ears seemed to hear it. The gates at the far end of the arena began to open. They were massive things, built from some metal that looked black in the light. It took 5 minutes for them to swing wide enough. When they did, darkness poured out. No, not darkness. Something darker than darkness. A creature so large that its shadow covered half the arena floor even though the sun was directly overhead. Shadow Fang stepped into the light, and the galaxy held its breath. The dragon's scales were the color of space between stars. Its eyes burned like dying suns, orange and red and full of something that might have been rage or might have been pain. Chains wrapped around its legs, each link thick as a grown human. The chains dragged through the sand, leaving deep furrows behind. Lily squeezed her mother's hand so hard it hurt. "It's sad," the little girl said. Talia blinked. Around them, aliens were pulling back from the railing, putting distance between themselves and the monster that had destroyed 15 colony worlds. The Veline delegation 3 rows down had started projecting hologram images of their burning homeworld. The air filled with the recorded screams of the dying. "Lily, that creature killed millions of people." "I know, Mama. But look at its eyes." Really look, Talia looked. She saw a killing machine. She saw the reason she had spent 3 months in diplomatic sessions arguing about jurisdiction and justice. She saw the thing that had made 7 species demand immediate execution without trial. Prime Adjudicator Relin stood up on the central platform. The crystalline being's body reflected light in sharp angles, making them look like they were made of knives. "People of the Galactic Council," Relin's voice boomed through translation devices that turned their words into 200 languages at once. "We gather to witness justice. This creature, known as Shadow Fang, has brought death to countless innocents. It has ignored all attempts at communication. It has rejected mercy. Today it will face the consequences of its actions. Today it dies." The crowd roared approval. Some species stamped feet, some beat wings, some simply hummed in frequencies that made human teeth ache. The sound was enormous and terrible and somehow hungry. Shadow Fang did not react to the noise. The dragon stood in the center of the arena, head lowered, chains pulling tight. It breathed slowly, each exhale sending sand swirling in small dust devils. "The sentence is death by combat," Relin continued. "Champions from the affected worlds will face the creature in turn. When it can no longer fight, final measures will be taken. Let none say the council is not merciful. We give it the honor of dying as a warrior." A gate on the opposite side opened. This one was smaller, human-sized. A massive figure stomped through, armor gleaming in the sun. The Kresh Battlemaster stood 9 feet tall, muscles like cables under green skin. In each of its 4 hands it carried a different weapon. The crowd screamed approval. Lily started crying silently. Tears ran down her cheeks, but she made no sound. She had not looked away from the dragon once since it entered the arena. The Battlemaster charged across the sand. It moved fast for something so large, closing the distance in seconds. The dragon watched it come. At the last moment when the warrior swung its first blade, Shadow Fang moved. Just a small shift of its massive head. The blade missed by inches. A second weapon came at its legs. The dragon's tail flickered out, lazy as a cat's, and sent the warrior tumbling across the sand. The Kresh got up, roared challenge, attacked again. The pattern repeated. The dragon did not fight back with any real effort. It simply avoided, deflected, pushed away, like it was tired, like it did not care anymore. The third time the warrior charged, Shadow Fang caught it gently in one massive claw and set it down outside the combat circle. The battlemaster struggled, but the dragon had already turned away, settling back into its waiting posture. The crowd went silent again. This was wrong. Monsters were supposed to rage. They were supposed to fight with fury. This creature fought like something already dead inside. Relin consulted with other council members. After a moment, they nodded. Send in the next champion. Lily tugged her mother's sleeve. Mama, it's not fighting because it doesn't care what happens to it. Something's broken inside. Can't anyone else see that? Talia pulled her daughter close. On the arena floor, a second champion entered. This one carried energy weapons that glowed blue in the sunlight. The crowd began to chant for blood. But in the diplomatic box, a 7-year-old human girl watched a dragon's eyes and saw something that would change everything. 3 champions lay in the sand now, breathing but broken. The dragon had not killed any of them. It had simply removed them from the fight with movements that looked almost bored. Each warrior had attacked with everything they had. Each had been set aside like a parent moving a child out of harm's way. The crowd's excitement had turned into something else. Confusion maybe, or unease. This was supposed to be a show of justice, a demonstration of consequences. Instead, it felt like watching someone go through motions they no longer cared about. Lily had stopped crying. She sat forward in her seat, staring at the dragon with an intensity that made her mother nervous. Talia knew that look. It was the same expression Lily got when she was working out a puzzle that adults had given up on. Mama, why did it go to those worlds? What do you mean, sweetheart? It attacked them. No, I mean, why those worlds? Out of all the places in space, why did it pick those 15 places? Talia opened her mouth to answer, then realized she did not actually know. The diplomatic briefings had focused on casualty numbers and jurisdictional authority. Nobody had ever asked why the dragon had chosen its targets. They had assumed it was random violence the way natural disasters were random. A 4th champion entered the arena. This one was Veline, a floating being made of energy fields and light. It did not carry weapons. Its entire body was a weapon. The creature could generate heat enough to melt stone. The Veline attacked from above, raining energy down on the dragon. Shadow Fang's scales absorbed the blasts without damage. The dragon looked up at its attacker with those burning eyes and made a sound. It was not a roar. It was something softer, sadder, almost like a question. The Veline did not understand. It intensified its attack. The sand around the dragon began to melt into glass. Still, Shadow Fang did not fight back with any real force. It simply folded its wings over its head and waited. After 10 minutes of this, the Veline exhausted itself. Its light dimmed and it floated to the ground, spent. Medical teams rushed out to collect the champions. Not one had died. The dragon could have killed them all easily. It had chosen not to. Relin stood again, and the anger in the Prime Adjudicator's voice carried clearly. This mockery ends now. Prepare the guess. If the creature will not accept an honorable death, it will receive a practical one. Workers in protective suits began wheeling equipment into the arena. Large containers marked with warning symbols in every known language. Gas dispensers on automated tracks. Enough poison to kill anything that breathed, no matter how large. Lily stood up so fast her chair fell over. No, you can't. You have to ask it why first. You have to try. Security personnel moved toward them. Talia grabbed her daughter's arm. Lily, sit down, please. But Mama, they never asked. They never tried to talk to it. What if there's a reason? An elderly creche in the row behind them leaned forward. Child, that beast killed thousands of my people. There is no reason that matters. Lily spun to face him. Did it eat them? The creche pulled back, surprised. What? Did the dragon eat anyone? Did it take anything? Did it stay on the worlds after it attacked, or did it just leave? The creche's face went through several expressions. No. It destroyed habitats and defense stations, then moved on. We assumed it was looking for sport or establishing territory. You assumed, Lily said quietly, then louder to everyone around them. Everyone assumed. But nobody asked. Talia's diplomatic training kicked in even as her heart raced. Her daughter was right. The briefings had all focused on the attacks themselves. The pattern of destruction. The body counts. Not once had anyone presented an analysis of motive beyond hostile creature acting on instinct. On the arena floor, workers positioned the gas containers. They would need 15 minutes to set everything up properly. 15 minutes for the crowd to watch the dragon wait for death. Lily pulled away from her mother. Before Talia could react, the little girl was running, not away from the danger, but toward it. She was small enough to slip between security guards, fast enough to reach the stairs before anyone realized what was happening. "Lily!" Talia screamed and ran after her. Alarms blared across the arena. Beings of every species were shouting. Security forces mobilized, but they were too far away. The little human girl had already reached the barrier wall at the edge of the combat zone. On the central platform, Relin made rapid gestures. "Stop the deployment! Hold the gas! Do not release anything!" Talia reached the barrier 30 seconds behind her daughter. She watched in horror as Lily climbed over the wall, using decorative carvings as handholds. The drop on the other side was 15 feet. The child jumped without hesitation, landed badly, rolled, and came up running, toward the dragon. Every weapon system in the arena swiveled to track Shadow Fang's position. Automated and manual, energy and projectile, enough firepower to destroy a warship, all aimed at the dragon's head. The targeting computers calculated angles, trying to find a shot that would kill the creature without touching the child. There was no such angle. Lily was too close now, running across sand still warm from the Velian's attack. Her little legs carried her past the broken weapons of fallen champions, past pools of melted glass, into the shadow of the creature that had terrified a galaxy. Shadow Fang lowered its massive head, slowly, carefully. It brought one enormous eye down to the child's level. The eye was bigger than Lily's whole body. It burned with inner fire, orange and red swirling like a sunset. The dragon and the child looked at each other. The universe waited. Lily took another step forward. Then another. She was crying again but still moving. When she spoke, her voice was small but clear enough that the arena's sensitive microphones picked it up and broadcast it to every being present. "You're hurting. Not just your body, inside. I can see it. Everyone can see it if they look right." Shadow Fang made that sound again. The soft, sad, questioning sound. Its burning eye tracked the tiny human, watching her every movement. Lily reached into her pocket and pulled out a small stuffed animal. It was worn from years of holding, one ear partly torn but clearly loved. "When I'm scared or lonely or sad, I hold this. It helps. Do you have one? Did you lose something?" The dragon's eye widened slightly. Its breathing changed, becoming faster. Then something happened that nobody expected. A sound came from deep in the creature's chest. Not a roar, not a growl. Something that made every parent in the arena, regardless of species, suddenly understand. The dragon was crying. Talia dropped over the barrier wall without thinking. Her diplomatic robes tore on the rough stone, but she did not care. Her daughter stood within reach of a creature that could swallow her whole. Every instinct screamed at her to grab Lily and run, but she stopped. Something in the tableau before her made stopping the only possible choice. The dragon's head was lowered so close to Lily that its breath stirred the child's hair. Each exhale came with a sound like wind through a canyon. The great creature was shaking, its entire body trembling. Liquid dripped from its eyes, sizzling where it hit the sand and turned it to black glass. Lily had both hands raised, not quite touching the dragon's scales. "It's okay," she said softly. "It's okay to be sad. Did you lose someone?" Shadow Fang's massive claw moved. Every weapon in the arena charged to full power. Targeting lasers painted red dots across the dragon's skull. One wrong move and they would fire regardless of collateral damage. The claw moved with impossible gentleness. It scraped at the sand, pushing grains aside, digging. The dragon never looked away from Lily, but its claw worked with clear purpose. After a moment, something gleamed in the shallow depression it had created. A piece of shell. Curved crystalline, no larger than Lily's hand. The dragon's claw settled around it protectively, treasuring it. Lily gasped. "An egg. You had a baby." The sound that came from Shadow Fang then made beings across the arena cover their ears. It was too big, too raw. Grief given voice by a creature that could shake mountains. The dragon pressed its snout to the sand beside that single piece of shell, and made a sound that no translation software could render into words. In the viewing platforms, something changed. Talia felt it ripple through the crowd like wind across water, understanding dawning where before there had been only certainty. A Velian ambassador 3 levels up stood abruptly. "The eggs," they said, their energy field flickering with agitation. "We found a cluster of eggs on Velen Prime, before the attack. The preservation team moved them to a secure facility for study. They were labeled as an endangered species. A Kresh warrior near the arena floor gripped the railing hard enough to dent the metal. It was always searching. After each attack, it would circle the ruins. We thought it was looking for survivors to kill, but it was looking for survivors to question. More voices joined, a pattern emerging from what had seemed like random destruction. The dragon had hit worlds that studied rare biology, worlds with genetic archives, worlds that had active conservation programs. It had been looking for its child. Talia reached her daughter's side. Lily was crying freely now. The little girl reached out and placed one hand on the dragon's snout. The scales were hot to the touch like sun-warmed stone. "They took your baby," Lily whispered. "You were trying to find them." And nobody would listen. Shadow Fang closed its eyes. Its whole body seemed to collapse inward, as if the only thing that had kept it going was purpose, and now even that was draining away. Relin descended from the central platform, moving faster than Talia had ever seen the crystalline being move. They approached the barrier but did not cross it. When they spoke, their voice carried not authority but something raw. Shock, maybe, or shame. Access all mission reports from the affected systems, not just casualty figures. Everything. Communications attempts, behavioral observations, all of it. A junior aide began projecting data across the arena displays. Holographic text and images floated in the air where everyone could see them. Kresh mission report. Day 3. Creature observed calling in subsonic frequencies. Pattern suggests interrogative structure. Unable to translate. Proceeded with defensive measures. Veline security log. Entity breached perimeter of Conservation Center 7. Did not attack personnel. Searched through genetic storage banks, destroying only containment systems, not samples. Odd behavior noted. Human colony outpost. The thing keeps circling the biology labs. It roars at specific buildings like it's asking questions. Evac protocols engaged, page after page, report after report. Every single one documenting a dragon trying to communicate, trying to search, while the galaxy's defenders shot first and asked no questions at all. The elderly Kresh who had spoken earlier climbed down from his seat. His legs shook as he approached the arena floor. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of years. "I lost my daughter in the attack on Kresh Station. I have hated this creature with everything I am." He paused, looking at the trembling dragon. "But we did not even try to understand. We saw a monster and decided that was all we needed to know." Lily looked up at the dragon. At this distance, she had to crane her neck back to see its eyes. "Is your baby still alive? Do you know?" Shadow Fang made a desperate questioning sound. Its gaze found Relin, and for the first time since entering the arena, the dragon's eyes held something other than grief. They held the faintest spark of hope. Relin worked their control interface rapidly. "The Velian conservation team, the one that relocated the eggs. Where did they take them?" The Velian ambassador's energy field pulsed rapidly. "Station 47, it orbits our third moon. The eggs are in stasis there, waiting for species identification before awakening protocols. Contact them. Now. Find out if one of those eggs is a dragon's." Tense minutes passed. The entire arena held its collective breath. The Velian ambassador listened to something only they could hear, their field shifting through colors that suggested deep emotion. Finally, they spoke. "Station 47 confirms. One egg in their care has been problematic. It keeps trying to emit signals despite stasis. They have been suppressing the transmissions to study them. The biosignature matches." They paused. "The egg is alive. It has been trying to call for its parent for 6 months." The sound Shadow Fang made then was neither grief nor rage. It was pure, desperate need. The dragon surged forward, chains snapping like thread. Every weapon fired at once, none of them hit. Talia had thrown herself over Lily, but it was not necessary. The dragon had moved past them, not at them. It crashed into the arena wall with enough force to crack the reinforced structure. Its claws scrabbled for purchase, trying to climb, trying to reach the sky, trying to get to its child who was calling across the dark. "Stop!" Lily's voice cut through the chaos. "You have to let it go. You have to bring the baby here. You have to fix what you broke." Relin stood frozen. The calculation playing across their crystalline features was visible for all to see. Justice versus mercy. Punishment versus restoration. Pride versus doing what was right. Talia stood, pulling her daughter close. She looked up at the prime adjudicator and spoke with every bit of diplomatic training and human conviction she possessed. "You said this was about justice. Prove it. Let justice mean making things right." Shadow Fang turned back to them. The dragon was fully capable of breaking free now. The chains lay in pieces. The wall bore cracks a human could fit through. It could leave. It could fight. But it stayed, looking at the small human child who had done what an entire galaxy had failed to do, who had simply asked why. Lily walked forward. She reached up, and in front of 200 species and countless watching worlds, a 7-year-old human girl stood on her toes and kissed the legendary killer dragon's nose. The silence that followed was absolute. Not even breathing disturbed it. Lily's lips pressed against obsidian scales for just a moment. Then she pulled back and wrapped her arms around as much of the dragon's snout as she could reach, which was not much. Her hands did not even meet on the other side. Shadow Fang went completely still, the kind of stillness that suggested something fundamental had changed. The dragon's eyes, which had burned with dying sun fury, softened to something like candlelight. Warm, uncertain, vulnerable. The biometric sensors built into the arena walls painted data across displays. Heart rate dropping, stress hormones declining, rage signatures disappearing. In their place, readings that the medical teams had to search their databases to identify. They found matches in the files marked parent-offspring bonding and trust formation. The dragon was not calming down. It was opening up. Talia felt tears on her own cheeks and did not bother to wipe them away. Her daughter had just done something monumentally dangerous and impossibly right. She wanted to scold her and hug her and never let her near danger again. She did none of those things. She simply stood witness. Relin approached slowly. The Prime Adjudicator's crystalline body had lost its sharp angles somehow. They looked tired in a way that suggested years of certainty crumbling in a single afternoon. When they spoke, their voice carried across the arena without technological help. I have served the Galactic Council for 40 years. I have presided over hundreds of judgments. I believed I understood justice. They paused, looking at the dragon and the child. I was wrong. We all were. Relin turned to address the crowd. This council condemned a being without trial, without investigation, without even asking the most basic question. Why? We saw destruction and assumed malice. We saw a creature that did not communicate as we do, and decided it could not communicate at all. We were so certain of our righteousness that we never looked for truth. A species representative in the upper tiers stood. They were Corinth, beings of pure logic and mathematics. Prime Adjudicator, the casualties are still real. The destroyed habitats are still destroyed. Even if the motive was understandable, the damage exists. Relin nodded slowly. It does, and we must address it. But punishment without understanding creates only more damage. This creature lost its child because we moved eggs without permission, without notification, without care for what they might mean to someone. Then when the parent came searching, we shot first. The human ambassador from Earth's primary delegation stood. He was an older man with gray hair and sad eyes. Talia knew him slightly. He had lost family in one of the attacked colonies. My grandson died on Outpost 19, he said quietly. He was 5 years old. For 6 months I have wanted nothing but to see this creature die. He paused, looking down at Lily and the dragon. But my grandson used to ask questions like that little girl does. He would have asked why. He would have seen grief before he saw a monster. The old man's voice broke. Killing this dragon will not bring back my family, but maybe understanding it can prevent other families from being broken. Others stood, slowly at first, then more rapidly. Representatives from 6 of the 15 affected worlds, not all. Some remained seated, anger and grief still too fresh. But enough stood that a shift became visible. One of the seated warriors, a Kresh battlemaster, finally stood as well. I cannot forgive. Not yet, maybe not ever, but I can stop adding to the wrong. They looked at Shadow Fang. If there is a way forward that does not require more death, I will not block it. Relin touched their communication interface. Station 47, this is Prime Adjudicator Relin. You are hereby ordered to prepare the dragon egg for immediate transport to the Judgment Arena. Full life support, priority clearance. I want that egg here within 4 hours. The Velian ambassador's energy field brightened with surprise. You are releasing the creature? I am trying, Relin said heavily, to stop compounding our mistakes. Lily finally let go of the dragon's snout. She looked up at Shadow Fang with eyes still wet from crying. Your baby is coming. They're bringing them here. You have to wait just a little bit longer, okay? The dragon rumbled something that made the sand vibrate. Not words in any language the translators could process, but the meaning was clear enough. A question. A request for confirmation. A desperate need to believe. Lily nodded firmly. I promise. Humans keep promises. Right, Mama? Talia knelt beside her daughter. We do, sweetheart. But Lily, we need to explain something to the dragon. The council is going to want guarantees. They are scared. They need to know this will not happen again. Lily frowned, working through the problem with the seriousness of a child who has just realized adults do not always have the answers. The dragon can't promise either. Not in words they understand. She looked thoughtful, but maybe they can show it. With actions, she turned back to Shadow Fang. If they bring your baby here, will you stay near humans? Let us watch and learn about you. Help us understand so this never happens to another dragon or another species. The dragon lowered its head until its snout touched the sand in front of Lily. A gesture of submission? Agreement! Something between the two. The great creature's eyes fixed on the tiny human child, and it made a soft sound. Gentle. Accepting. It agrees, Lily announced. A skeptical voice from the crowd called out. The child cannot speak for the creature. We have no guarantee. Shadow Fang lifted its head. It turned to face the assembled representatives of 200 species. Then, with deliberate care, it moved to position itself beside Lily, not looming over her. Not threatening, simply standing close. The message was clear. Where the child goes, I go. Where I go, the child goes. We are bound now. Talia felt her heart race. Her daughter had just become something the galaxy had never seen before. An ambassador between species that had only known conflict. A bridge built from trust instead of treaty. No, Talia started to say. Lily, you cannot, Mama? Lily took her hand. You teach me that diplomacy means building understanding between different peoples, right? That it means taking risks for peace, right? Talia wanted to argue. To say her daughter was too young, too small, too human to take on a responsibility this vast. But looking at the dragon's gentle eyes, at the way it had positioned itself protectively near her child, at the hope that had replaced ancient rage, she could not find the words to refuse. 4 hours, Relin announced. We have 4 hours before the egg arrives. The council will use that time to establish protocols. This situation is unprecedented. The word spread through the arena like fire. Unprecedented. The execution had become something else entirely. A rescue, a reunion, a moment where the galaxy would have to watch itself and decide what justice actually meant. Lily sat down in the sand, cross-legged and calm. The dragon settled beside her, massive body curling in a protective circle. The little girl pulled out her stuffed animal again and held it where the dragon could see. When my dad died, she said quietly, I thought I would be sad forever. But Mama told me that love does not end just because someone is gone. It changes shape. It becomes memory. Then when we remember them, they are a little bit alive again. Shadow Fang made a sound like wind through deep caverns, mournful but not hopeless. Your baby never died, though, Lily continued. Your baby is alive and calling for you. So your love does not have to change shape. It gets to stay exactly what it is. That is a gift. That is worth waiting for. Talia sat down beside her daughter. After a moment, she reached out and very carefully placed her hand on the dragon's scales. They were warm and rough and alive. In the viewing platforms, beings who had come to watch death now found themselves witnesses to something far stranger and more powerful. They watched a child and a dragon wait together in the sand, bound by understanding that had taken a galaxy too long to find. 3 hours passed in tense preparation. Council members argued in rapid session about liability and precedent and risk assessment. Medical teams prepared containment fields in case things went wrong. Security forces positioned themselves around the arena, weapons ready but not aimed. Everyone prepared for disaster while hoping for miracle. Lily stayed with the dragon the entire time. She told it stories about Earth, about oceans and mountains and seasons changing. She described snow, which the dragon seemed fascinated by. She talked about her school and her friends and the time she found a bird with a broken wing and helped nurse it back to health. The dragon listened. It made soft sounds that might have been questions or might have been commentary. Sometimes it would shift position slightly, always careful to keep Lily comfortable in the curve of its body. Once, when the sun moved and threatened to put her in direct light, it extended one massive wing to provide shade. Talia watched from a few feet away, close enough to intervene if needed. far enough to let the impossible bond form. Other humans had joined them in the arena. Scientists with sensors to monitor the dragon's biosigns. Linguists trying to map the sounds it made into something translatable. Diplomats taking notes on every gesture and movement. But it was Lily's show. Everyone understood that. Whatever was happening between the child and the dragon, it was not something that could be forced or replicated. It simply was. A chime sounded across the arena. Rellen's voice followed. The transport ship has entered orbital approach. E to 15 minutes, Shadow Fang's entire body went rigid. Every muscle tensed. The dragon's head lifted, nostrils flaring as if it could smell its child across the miles of atmosphere, a sound built in its chest deep and resonant. Not distress, but anticipation so intense it bordered on pain. Lily stood and put both hands on the dragon's leg. Almost here. You made it. They're almost here. The viewing platforms filled with representatives who had left to attend to other business. They returned now, drawn by the knowledge that history was being written. Some came out of curiosity. Some came because they needed to see if redemption was actually possible. Some came because they still did not believe this would end well, and wanted to be there when it fell apart. A ship descended from the clouds, sleek in medical white, emblazoned with the symbols of the Veline Conservation Corps. It landed gently on the far side of the arena, its engines throwing up clouds of sand that took minutes to settle. The boarding ramp lowered. 3 Veline handlers emerged, their energy fields dim with nervousness. Between them floated a containment pod. Through its transparent surface, something gleamed like captured starlight. An egg, obsidian black with veins of gold running through its surface. Roughly the size of a grown human. It pulsed with inner light, the rhythm of a heartbeat visible through the shell. Shadow Fang made a sound that no being present would ever forget. Joy and grief and relief and love all compressed into one note. The dragon surged forward, then stopped, checking itself. It looked at Lily with desperate, questioning eyes. Go, Lily said, smiling through fresh tears. Go meet your baby. The dragon moved across the arena floor like flowing shadow. Graceful despite its size, fast despite its wounds. It reached the containment pod and simply stood there shaking. The handlers backed away quickly, giving space. Rellen signaled something. The containment field deactivated. The pod opened. The egg sat exposed in its cushioning nest. For a long moment, nothing happened. Dragon and egg, parent and child, separated for months and now reunited. What words could possibly matter? Then the egg rocked slightly. A crack appeared in its surface, thin as a hair. Then another. The pulsing light grew brighter. From inside came a sound, high-pitched, questioning, the universal call of a child looking for its parent. Shadow Fang's response was immediate and overwhelming. The dragon's whole body lowered until its head touched the ground beside the egg. It made a continuous sound, part rumble and part song that spoke of recognition and safety and, "You are found, you are here, I am here, we are together." The egg cracked further. A piece of shell fell away. A small snout emerged. Black scales. Eyes like embers, tiny copies of the parent's massive ones. The baby dragon made sounds that climbed in pitch and volume. Not distress, excitement, it saw its parent. The shell broke apart quickly after that. The baby struggled free, sticky and unsteady and perfect. It was the size of a large dog, all awkward limbs and disproportionate wings. It stumbled out of the egg remnants and directly into its parent's waiting embrace. Shadow Fang curled around its child, wings folding to create a shelter. The sounds that came from within that shelter were soft and private, and meant for no ears but each other's. The great dragon that had terrified worlds made little chirps and coos as it checked its baby over. The baby responded with squeaks and happy growls, climbing across its parent's snout, tangling itself in the larger dragon's limbs. Every being in the arena felt the same thing. This was not a monster. This was a parent. The difference between those two things was everything. Lily walked slowly toward the dragons. Talia moved to stop her, but Rellen held up a hand. Let her. If there is anyone the dragon will allow close right now, it is her. The baby dragon noticed Lily first. Its little head popped up from behind its parent's leg, eyes wide with curiosity. It made a questioning chirp. Shadow Fang responded with a gentle rumble, a sound that clearly meant safe. The baby investigated. It bounded toward Lily with the clumsy enthusiasm of any young creature, all bounce and no coordination. When it reached her, it sniffed carefully, then made a pleased sound and rubbed its head against her leg like a cat seeking affection. Lily laughed with pure delight. She knelt and the baby immediately tried to climb into her lap, all sharp little claws and warm scales. "Hello," she said. "Your parent is very brave and very strong and loves you so much." The baby dragon made happy noises and licked her face with a tongue like warm stone. Then it bounded back to Shadow Fang, clearly wanting to share this exciting discovery. "Look what I found. Look at the small, warm creature." Shadow Fang watched this with eyes that held emotions too complex for words. The great dragon looked at Lily, then at its child, then back at Lily. Then it did something extraordinary. It bowed its head to the little human girl. Not submission, respect, gratitude, a debt acknowledged. Lily bowed back, small and solemn. "I did not save your baby. I just helped find them. You saved yourself by not giving up." The baby dragon split its attention between its parent and the interesting human. It kept running back and forth, bringing small rocks and bits of shell to show Lily, the way children everywhere share treasures with new friends. Talia approached carefully. When Shadowfang did not react negatively, she knelt beside her daughter. "Lily, the council is going to have questions, decisions to make. This is not over yet, I know, Mama, but the hard part is over. They found each other. Everything else is just details." From the mouth of a 7-year-old it sounded naive, but watching the two dragons interact, watching the baby already forming a bond with the human child who had helped save its parent, Talia wondered if maybe her daughter was right. Maybe everything else really was just details. Relin descended to the arena floor. Other council members followed. They formed a loose circle around the dragons and the humans, maintaining respectful distance. When Relin spoke, their voice carried something that might have been humility. "Shadowfang of the Obsidian Scales, parent of the young one before us. The Galactic Council owes you an apology that can never be adequate. We stole your child. We shot you when you came searching. We condemned you without understanding. There is no punishment suitable for what we have done." Shadowfang raised its head. It looked at the assembled council, at the species that had hunted it, hurt it, almost killed it. The dragon could have responded with rage, with demands for justice of its own. Instead, it looked at its child, safe and happy and here. Then the dragon looked at Lily and made a sound that the translation software rendered as a single word: family. Lily beamed. The baby dragon chirped agreement and tackled her, gentle as a puppy. Shadowfang watched over them both with eyes that had learned to hope again. In the viewing platforms, beings who had come for execution witnessed redemption instead. They saw a galaxy that had almost destroyed something precious through arrogance and fear. They saw how close they had come to committing an irreversible wrong. Most importantly, they saw a human child who had asked the question that saved everything. Why? 1 year later, the arena looked completely different. Where sand had soaked up blood, gardens now grew. Species from across the galaxy had contributed plants from their homeworlds. The result was chaos in the best way. Crystalline flowers grew beside bioluminescent vines. Trees with silver leaves provided shade for pools where aquatic species could rest. The air smelled like 1,000 different worlds all mixing together. Children ran through the gardens, their laughter echoing off walls that had once amplified sounds of combat. Not just human children, though there were plenty of those. Every species in the council had sent young ones to participate in what was now called the Understanding Gardens, a place where beings learned about each other before fear and assumption could take root. Lily sat on a carved stone bench, now 8 years old and somewhat taller. The baby dragon, who still had no proper name because dragons apparently chose their own when they were ready, lay beside her with its head in her lap. It had grown considerably, now the size of a small horse with wings that could almost carry it on short flights. Its scales had started showing hints of gold at the edges, catching sunlight. The young dragon watched a group of creche children playing something that looked like tag. Its tail swished with interest. "You can go play if you want," Lily said, scratching behind the dragon's ear ridges. It made a pleased rumbling sound but did not move. Wherever Lily went, the dragon followed. They had become as inseparable as everyone had predicted. Shadowfang rested nearby in a specially constructed shelter that was part cave, part viewing platform. The great dragon spent most days here watching over the children. All the children, not just its own. Sometimes young beings would approach nervously, dared by friends. Shadow Fang would lower its head and let them touch its scales, make small sounds of greeting, occasionally blow gentle smoke rings that made them giggle. The dragon's wounds had healed, not the physical ones from the battles. Those had been treated easily enough. The deeper wounds, the ones that grief had carved, those had taken longer. But surrounded by life and growth and the sound of children playing, even those scars had begun to fade. Talia approached with another human, a young woman carrying data tablets and looking slightly overwhelmed. "Lily, this is Research Assistant Davis. She has some questions for you about the communication protocols you have been developing." Lily sighed good-naturedly. "More questions, okay." She looked at Davis. "But I keep telling everyone I did not invent anything. I just paid attention." Davis sat down carefully, very aware of the dragon watching her. "You were the first to establish meaningful communication with Shadow Fang. The patterns you developed have become the basis for our entire first contact reformation. How did you know to approach it the way you did?" Lily thought about it seriously. She had been asked this question a lot in the past year. "I did not know. I just looked at what was happening and asked what it looked like. Everyone saw a monster attacking. I saw someone destroying things looking for something. Those are different. Once you know what you're looking at, what to do becomes sort of obvious. But the kiss, why did you do that?" Lily shrugged. "When someone is hurting really bad and words are not enough, sometimes you just have to show them they are not alone. Physical contact means something to most species. I took a chance." Davis made notes. "The Council has established new protocols based on your interaction. Mandatory investigation periods, assumption of communication attempts rather than automatic hostility, protection status for refugee species. They are calling them the Shadow Fang protocols." The dragon's head lifted at hearing its name. It made a sound that the translation software still could not quite capture. Something between amusement and approval. A commotion near the garden entrance drew everyone's attention. A group of Veline had arrived, their energy fields bright with excitement. The one in front held a carefully wrapped bundle. "Ambassador Okonkwo," they called. "We have news. The last of the relocated eggs from that preservation program have been returned to their origin points. Every species accounted for. Every parent located and reunited where possible. The final report is ready." Talia stood, professional instincts engaging. "And the casualties? The reparations?" "Being addressed. The Council has established a fund. We cannot restore what was destroyed, but we can help rebuild. 13 of the 15 affected worlds have accepted the terms." The Veline paused. "The other 2 are still angry. They may never forgive, but they have agreed not to pursue further action against Shadow Fang. It was not perfect justice, but it was honest justice. An acknowledgement that sometimes everyone makes mistakes, and the path forward lies not in punishment but in doing better." The young dragon suddenly perked up and bounded toward the entrance. A moment later, 3 small creche children came racing into the garden, pursued by the dragon in a game that looked universal. Chase. The dragon was faster, but it kept deliberately staying just behind, letting them feel like they were winning. An elderly creche followed the children at a slower pace. Talia recognized him, the battle master who had been one of the first to stand down during that day in the arena. He walked to where Shadow Fang rested and bowed formally. "I come bearing something that has taken me a year to craft," he said, placing a bundle on the ground. "I was a warrior. I only knew how to destroy. But I have learned new skills." He unwrapped the bundle to reveal a statue. Carved from dark stone, it depicted a small human child with her hand raised to touch a dragon's nose. The detail was incredible. You could see trust in the child's posture, wonder in the dragon's eye. "For the center of the garden," the creche said, "so that young ones who come here will ask about it. And we can tell them the story of the day the galaxy learned to see." Shadow Fang examined the statue with careful attention. Then it made a sound and used one claw to very gently push it toward Lily. The girl looked at it, face going through several emotions. "It is beautiful. But I did not do anything special. I just asked questions." "Exactly," Talia said softly. In a galaxy that had stopped asking, that was everything. They installed the statue in the central plaza the next day. By evening, it had attracted a crowd. Parents explaining to children what had happened. Young beings touching it curiously, asking their own questions. Why did the dragon attack? Why did the girl help? Why did no one else see what she saw? The questions multiplied, which was exactly the point. Each question was a seed. Some would grow into understanding, others into better systems, all of them into a galaxy that paused before judging, that investigated before attacking, that asked why. Lily sat with both dragons as the sun set, turning the gardens into a maze of shadows and light. The young dragon had finally tired itself out and lay sprawled across her lap, snoring slightly. Shadow Fang's massive head rested nearby, eyes half closed in contentment. Mama says we might visit other worlds soon, Lily told Shadow Fang. She is helping set up understanding programs on 12 different planets. She wants me to come talk about what happened here. The dragon made a questioning sound. Yeah, you too. Both of you. They want to meet you, show that change is possible. Lily scratched the young dragon's scales. I think it could be good. Other species might need help understanding each other. We could show them how. Shadow Fang considered this. Then it did something it had not done in the entire year since that day in the arena. It spoke in Galactic Common. The words were rough, unpracticed, but clear. We go. Together. Show them. Family. Lily smiled wide. Yeah, family. Around the galaxy on 200 worlds, beings watched recordings of the arena incident. It had become required viewing in diplomatic schools and military academies, in anywhere that beings made decisions about other beings. The footage always ended the same way. A small human child kissing a dragon's nose. The moment that changed everything. But it was not just that moment that mattered. It was every moment after. The choice to rebuild instead of destroy, to question instead of assume, to extend trust when fear seemed safer. In the understanding gardens, as darkness settled, lights began to glow, bioluminescent plants from a dozen worlds creating patterns in the night. The young dragon woke up enough to watch them, eyes wide with wonder. It made happy chirping sounds. Shadow Fang watched its child discover beauty in a place that had once held only pain. The great dragon's eyes reflected the lights, burning not with fury or grief, but with something far more powerful and far more dangerous to the old ways. Hope. A Veline child approached nervously, encouraged by parents watching from a distance. The child held out a glowing flower, an offering. The young dragon accepted it with gentle teeth, then offered it to the child to hold again. They played gentle tug-of-war with it, laughing in their different ways. Lily watched this and felt something settle in her chest. The knowledge that what had started in fear and almost ended in tragedy had become this: children playing, parents watching without worry. Different species sharing space without weapons. It was not perfect. The scars remained. Some families still grieved. Some species still struggled with trust. But they were trying. The whole galaxy was trying, all because one child had asked the right question at the right time. Why? The simplest word. The most important question. In the gardens where death had been scheduled and life had been chosen instead, that question echoed still. In every child who asked their parents about the statue, in every species that paused before attacking what they did not understand, in every moment that choice replaced assumption. Why? The galaxy was still learning the answer, but at least now they were asking. And asking, as it turned out, was where understanding began. Above them, stars wheeled in their ancient patterns. Dragons and humans and hundreds of other species looked up at the same sky, different eyes seeing the same universe, learning slowly to see each other too.